Hey guys, welcome back to GM's Table. It's freezing, so I have a blanket. It's also early morning, but we're doing a game review today. Yeah, not topics and stuff. I want to get back into what I started when I was writing, and I started with game reviews. And honestly, I kind of stumbled into a game last week that I'm not going to say it's my favorite game, but I did kind of love running it, and it's a lot of fun. It's in PDF. A physical copy exists for pre-order right now, I believe. I'm going to do the drive-through RPG link down below. But it is City of Mist. In fact, I'm going to... Oh, there. Now I'm visible. So, I'm going to be honest. I kind of just stumbled across this game in an online ad. And I'd seen it about a half dozen times. I'm like, yeah, screw it. I'm just going to look at it. And when I started digging into it, I love the setting and love the idea enough where when I got the free sample, the free trial PDFs, which that's what the link will be down below, because you can dig from drive-through from there. I love the setting so much I went, you know what, even if the game sucks, I want the full setting book. So, first and foremost, mechanics-wise, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the setting, it's an Apocalypse Engine game. For those who aren't used to it, that's a Powered by the Apocalypse game. Apocalypse World, Dungeon World, Monster of the Week. There's dozens, but those are the ones I know. I've actually been meaning to get a physical copy of Dungeon World forever. And just stuff like new D&D books come out, and I don't have money. And then I find stuff like this. I drop 25 bucks on it, and I don't have money. But I'm actually really happy this was the first Apocalypse Engine game I got. They are very upfront. If you're used to Powered by the Apocalypse games, this one's kind of different. They tweak some things. Characters are slightly more powerful because, weirdly enough, especially coming from me, this is almost a supers game. So, I know. I always say I don't run supers. If I got to run a supers game, this is probably the version I would want to run. It just got huge. Okay. I guess for you guys it got less than huge. And I'm sorry for this all down here. Again, PDF, I'm a little limited. So to get, without going into too much spoilers, and actually you kind of can't with how the book's written, I'll get into that in a bit. City of Mist is an urban noir, can be supers game. The core concept is you all live in this city of mist. It's known as the city. They have rules for, turning into whatever city you want. But I actually love the concept of just keeping it as the city. People who are fans of The Tick are used to things like that, where it goes, oh, it's just the city and there's the waterfront, and it's all this very neutral thing. And in this setting, I think it works better than any, because of a lot of the background and who you are in the city. The second I get a player that goes, well, but what's the city's name? Oh, no, it's just called The City. Well, that's weird. Yeah, you didn't think that was weird about a week ago, but now you do. Because this is very much a game about waking up to things that are a mystery to you. And it being this weird city that's kind of impossible. You talk about things like downtown has this massive skyscraper that you can see from anywhere in the city in the skyline, but no one can find the front door to it. Weird stuff like that happens. And again, I'm kind of going in circles. There's a lot in this setting, and I'm actually just kind of excited about the setting. I know I'm not super coherent. So first you have this city. It's this weird city, and why is it the City of Mist? Well, the mist in this game, they have rules where it can just be this passive thing if you want it to be, but the assumption is the mist is actually this almost intelligent force that constantly is trying to keep everyone seeing things as the normal world. Which means you won't question the weird stuff around you. You won't notice things like superheroes or magic or anything like that. And the mist will actively work against you if you try to reveal it. I love that idea. You could say it's a malevolent force. You could say it's this force that's just neutral. It could even try to be a force for good, and it thinks it's doing good. But it is a force that acts. It's not just, One of my favorite Savage World settings is Marchlands, where there is the glamour of people just kind of choose not to see magic. It's so subconscious they don't notice it. This isn't that. This is something making people see the world this way. On top of that, where do your basically superpowers and your magic and stuff come from? That comes from the kind of character you are. In the game, they call them rifts. Some are gateways and stuff. But basically, you were a normal person. And then one day, something woke up inside of you. For them, they say it's this rift, and a mythos came to it. And I know I'm talking in all these words that I'm going to have to explain. But to me, I've also kind of interpreted that as you are the reincarnation of the mythos, and it's awakened in you. And mythos are literally what they sound like. They are myths. You are basically the reincarnation of a myth. And they can range anything from your Peter Pan to you're the concept of Uncle Sam or George Washington. In the pre-made, someone is literally has Excalibur. And this is who you are. You have access to these myths. Either they are you or you have a relic. And you can be somewhat powerful who also has a relic. How the system works at being narrative based, none of that really matters because it all comes out as a wash, power wise. No one's really broken. You can be the reincarnation of Zeus, and someone else can be Jack Sprat, and you guys can stand toe to toe if you know what you're doing. That said, NPCs who are these can be more powerful for reasons, and we'll get into it. But that's more or less the lowdown on how things kind of run in City of Mist. You're these mythological characters who were once a normal person and then you woke up to being mythological. And one of the big conflicts in the system is balancing your human life with these mythological forces. And all the I know there are players out there because I got plenty of them who would go, well, I'll just ditch my old life and go full mythological. If you do that, you become what's called an avatar. If all of your humanity and all of your mundane life gets stripped from you, you become an avatar. And that's not actually a good thing. In some cases, it's really great if you're like, I want to be powerful. But there's a lot of costs to it. Because every mythos has an agenda, has something they want to do to the city. And how they write and all, no mythos should have an agenda that isn't at least incredibly destructive if it's not outright malicious. All right, mythos want their thing done and they don't care what gets destroyed to do it. Once you become an avatar, you have to follow that agenda because the second you break from your agenda, boom, you're dropped back down, you lose avatar status, and when that happens, it's actually such a shock, your character basically resets. So you should only try to push to go avatar if you know that's where you want to go. And I do like that they have rules for coming back from it, but there is a heavy cost for it. Now, on top of that, they can do things that normally a character can do what's called burning a tag, and they have to wait till downtime to reset them. Avatars are like, oh, I burned it, next round it's back. Just that without getting into all the mechanics, that's how powerful they are. They're just boom, boom, boom. They are near unstoppable mechanically. The thing is you gotta trick them into either going against their mythos, or not going against their agenda, or talking them back into embracing their humanity, even the smallest bit, and boom, they reset. And there's a lot of role-playing potential there. And I kind of love that. And there's the other side of it, too. If you go, I just ignore all my mythological stuff and all, you can become what's called a sleeper, again, which are the people who are asleep to magic and the mythological. The game actually handles characters making those choices, and if you fall too far, you become one of those. You forget all the mythological stuff. But people can roleplay with you and work with you to get you to wake back up. So characters are very rarely just completely gone. In that case, I mean, you can still be killed. But that's the kind of stuff it is. Now, mechanically, within all of that stuff, it's your standard apocalypse engine things. It's very narrative-driven based. system. You tell the GM what you want to do. The GM tells you which roll you make. Really, your rolls are the same. It's 2d6 plus whatever descriptive tags you think will fit into your action. If the GM disagrees, you guys kind of work it out. The GM does have final say, but they can be like, yeah, that tag will count right now. Yeah, and it's very loose. It's things like, again, if you're playing Peter Pan, one of your tags might be, I can fly. And whenever you want to fly, you use that tag. And those give you +1 to the roll for every tag. They have rules in here to either do a hard cap of 3 tags, or there's a chart that it basically caps at 4, but it's like this degrees where you only get +4 once you've spent 7. I just do the hard cap at 3 if I'm going to limit it. It's a lot easier. But I do like that they have that for people who want the much more nuanced gameplay. I play fast and loose, as you guys know. So that's it in a nutshell for mechanics. There's things where like you can burn a tag and it gives you an auto success as if you'd roll a 10 with a power of 3. Getting into power and all that, I might do a video about, the nitty gritty of the mechanics of the Apocalypse engine and Power of the Apocalypse game. That's not really this. If you're curious about Apocalypse games, check this book out. If you know you like Apocalypse games, check this out. If you have no interest in Apocalypse games, but you like urban games or noir games, or you want to run a game of Fables or American Gods or any of that kind of stuff, this is the book for you. And this is where I'm going to start getting into things where I think it's the real value of the book. The game itself, great. This is over a 500-page book, and the Apocalypse engine is not that complicated. This is a lot of setting stuff, and honestly, great tool tips. And I love a book that gives tool tips. We're going to have to jump through the book a bit, because like I said, it's 500 plus pages. In fact, we're going out of read mode. Let's drop that, but we're going to go through some bookmarks for a second. Sorry, this looks horribly ugly, but we don't need the basics. What we're looking for is Life of a Legend. The other big thing about this book, if you haven't noticed already, it's gorgeous. Like, for real, this book is beautiful. Every ounce of it. I would get, if I end up with a good bit of extra cash, I will get this book in print just because it is a gorgeous book. This is where they talk about the mythi, all of that stuff, background stuff. Again, this is detailed enough, but that you can really run this in any system you think that can handle it. I think Savage Worlds could do this, but it'll be a very different kind of game. I think GURPS could do this, but it'll be a very different kind of game, because I've talked about systems govern a lot of the feel. But the concepts in here can fit a lot of systems. But what I really like, and again, it doesn't get so gritty that you feel confined as a GM. At least I don't. Because when we get into the whys and the history and what the answers to the mystery are, they don't give just one answer. Typically, they give about 5 answers to everything, and the GM gets to pick. I love that. I'm going to go to a prettier page while I talk. I love that because I also have players that like to read books. And if they get their hands, if they know we're going to be playing a game, they'll get their hands on the book and they'll read it. And a lot of these mystery games, they can accidentally find out things they didn't want to. In a book like this, you could read the whole book, and depending on what choices your GM made, or if he wants to go off book, because they have a lot of stuff about, or just wing it, here's some guidelines, you got no clue what's coming up in someone's game. It doesn't matter if you've read the book. You'll have an understanding of the world and some of the broad strokes, just like anyone who lives in the world would. But the big answers, you don't have. Here we go. Yeah, cinematography, I say. The whole game, from a mechanic standpoint, is also written from a film standpoint. As I've said before, I was a film major. My degree is in writing scripts, basically. This does stuff like photo montages, end credits, opening monologues, and it's in that style then translated in the game form. And that's probably why it speaks to me so much, but I'm not gonna lie, I freaking love it. So I had a little tech hiccup. Let's see if we got that there. I think we're back up. So going in, a very noir setting, but here we go, describing the city, how we go into it. When I get into all of this stuff, if you guys hear things like the White Rabbit's in there. Now, why? Because this is where they're getting into their version of the city. And it's broken into districts, and then the districts have their own breakdowns. When I got to a much more simplified version of this in the setting rules, I hadn't even gotten to the mechanics yet. I went, I gotta buy this book because I need this setting. Because we get into things like downtown, and we're like, oh, what's beyond the mist? Places of interest. And then we get into the people. And the people are so cool. Because we have stuff like Cheryl Fisher. Oh, what's that? She's a Japanese god of wealth. We have the Frog Prince here. We have Alice. Alice is one of my favorites. Now, a lot of these, if you notice there's no stats, a lot of the big players do have stats in the back of the book. Alice, people are thinking she's one of those avatars, crazy powerful, but nobody knows for sure. She literally has an aura of reality warping insanity around her she doesn't control. And it is crazy powerful, and everyone's scared of her. And she's basically just this weird person that kind of wanders downtown. And I love it. The deep backgrounds to these, you can really just take like a handful of NPCs from this and have a whole campaign about. We got your blue collar district, again, places of interest, NPCs. You got the Pied Piper, a poltergeist, sleeper. Like, sleepers are, again, the people who haven't woken up. So they also have mundane NPCs because those people are still pretty powerful and influential in the game. It's not all about having superpowers, or if you tone it down, just mystical powers. Because they do talk about it can range anywhere from a low-level supers game to just a weird occult game. It can handle all of it. Alright, so that kind of gives you guys an idea of the background stuff. I love the image for the industrial zone. But I want to get into, we're going to go much, much deeper into the book. Because we're going to get into probably the most useful thing. It's something I didn't even know was going to be here. Oh, I will cover this first. If you're one of those people who games like Apocalypse games and Fate games, and this was actually one of my big problems with Fate, is things are too broad. And Apocalypse is a little better because you have your theme books you pick from. But like, how do I build up these themes to make someone and all of that stuff? They have theme cards. And then they have tropes. And we're going to get into the tropes. Did I skip the tropes? Yeah, here we go. Tropes are pre-made builds. Now again, you basically get 4 themes. And it can be any number between mythos and logos. Logos being your mundane. But you can't have 4 of any. Because once you have 3 of one and you lose your 1 of the other, you become full in. You don't get a 4th, you just go full in. So they have pre-builds in 3. And you pick how far into the tier you want. And then you pick, so you pick like a mythological card. You pick how far in. And then you pick a mundane card, and however many you didn't take to fill up 4, you take the rest on 1. And you combine those 2 to make your character. And it's stuff like a magic sword. You know, these aren't like the starter set where it's like, oh, it's Excalibur and it's all pre-built. You just go, well, I want to be something. What was that legend? All right, that involves a magic sword. Boom, I have that one right there. An assassin, like creature of darkness. You can start characters who are god or goddess of the underworld, god or goddess of knowledge. Like, you can start as reincarnated gods because the system handles it really well. And then your mundane are a different color as well. And I love how these are printed because I can print out these 2 sheets, take some scissors, and I have a deck if I want to randomize them. And I think if I end up running this as a campaign, my players will get to pick their mundane life because it's all about how it clashes with your mythos, as well as a game of mystery. So they get to pick their mundane life. They get to pick who they are in the real world. And then they're going to draw their mythos. And it's going to be in these broad terms as well. And part of the game is going to be uncovering what myth you are. And they actually have rules for starting with like very weak in your mythos and it growing up because you cycle through those. It's the same with the logos. If like all of a sudden you gain, well, now I work at a police station, you don't automatically get everything because your theme just changed. It builds in. It builds in pretty quick, and advancement is fast, but it does build, which lets everything feel very natural, which I appreciate. But I wanted to cover those because for anybody who's thinking, oh, this is a lot in and pre-mades, This is similar to Savage Worlds with the archetypes, where I love that they have pre-mades that are like half-baked. So you have stuff to get you going, but you can still be creative with it. Now back to what I was going to pull up, because again, it's near the back of the book. Ugh. So we're going past all the character stuff, and we're going into adventure writing. Yeah, the rules they have in here, I gotta get through all the all the theme books. The rules they have for writing noir adventures in this are amazing. I kid you, they're just so good. Uh, This is why I really should have written down page numbers, but I'm doing this early in the morning and I am horribly disorganized. Yeah, MC moves, how to narrate, adjust. Here we go. Writing a case. This is where we're going to start getting into the stuff where I didn't know this was in the book when I bought it, but this has then made this book invaluable to me. Because since it's a very narrative-based game, there's not a lot of, well, and then you do this mechanics and you bounce here and there. This is just about how to write the story. And they do this thing called the iceberg method, which for noir actually is amazing, where you do an investigation and your backstory and how it all works. And this is where you look at a flat case, a simple case, an average case, and an involved case, and there are your depths. And then they get into how you plot out your iceberg to get that like kind of shape where what's on the surface, and then we're going deeper and deeper below, but it's also narrowing down. So you got to get into the deep, dark waters to get to that point. And then we get into backstory, Yeah, here's a better visual version of it where you have your hooks, and then that goes you in the different locations, and you show how it can all intersect. It is a really useful tool. This chapter alone is basically a handbook on how to write noir and urban adventures, and it's so useful. The final other thing I would say that's super useful for this, oh yeah, designing a series. It's very similar. I would count this in the same section, but they do go into not just writing an adventure, but how to do a series, which is your campaign, and how to branch them together. I don't really look at it as its own thing because they, again, use the iceberg method, but with individual cases building as well. Again, I love it. It's super useful, but I'd lump them as one thing. Oh, beautiful comic art. But I wanted to get, this is my city where we get in, dangerous. This is where we start getting into, that's the rules for damage and stuff. Again, not getting into the nitty gritty. How to use dangers. Oh yeah, your custom moves, because dangers can do things other people can't. Just to simplify the rules, because it's a very fast thing. The danger profiles. This is what your enemy stat blocks look like, for the most part. And there's some pretty generic ones, but after this is when it gets really interesting. Because after this, we get into the avatars. These are the big bads. There are only 3 pre-built in here. But like Anatoly Vidales, he's Hades. But not only, oh, and we got this great picture, he's Hades, maybe it'll be a stat block. It is all about his modus operandi, his iceberg and the network of his systems and everything. His whole operation, his history. Lots of, like, you could do a whole campaign on one of these and they give you 3. They give you story seeds, and then the very important enemies he uses, his goons, his enforcers, his big generals, are all in this same chapter. Yeah, Cerberus, the 3-headed dog, appears as 3 dogs being walked by a spectral dog walker because the mist warps and changes things. And we have him. That's what K9 is. It's Cerberus. We have all of these things, and they're all in one lump area. So, like, if I want to spend the ink, I could just print off Hades' chunk, and I basically have a setting Bible for my GM stuff if I need to go off script. Super, super useful. We also have Barton, who is... One of those great things of the looseness of this system is we've talked about mythological characters, but they can also be concepts and ideas. This guy is literally the spear, the iconography of the spear. He is a symbol of all military leaders. That kind of stuff can happen in this game. You can go nuts with what you want to do. and similar setup. But I'm now going to drop the PDF because that's basically the end section of the PDF. By and large, like I said, if you run urban games, modern games, if you want to run a American Gods game or a Fables game, this book is almost built for those two games. American Gods, you just take out the whole thing where people can't leave the city and you make it a road game, and boom, it's done. Really, it is. Most of your NPCs are even statted out for you. A Fables game, it is literally done. You just retweak a couple things and this game's done. You want to go something a little different, something a little twisted, it's all there. I ain't covered the whole chapter where there's literally just lists of how do you want your game to be. This is an awesome resource. Even if you don't like apocalypse games, this is awesome. If you do like apocalypse games, check this out. I have said, this is kind of a super's level of power. It is not as deadly as most apocalypse games. They've toned down how easy it is to get hurt, especially in toe-to-toe. There is no auto damage in toe-to-toe for people who are used to that. That is a little jarring. But it's there for a reason, because this is more about long-form characters. It's not about dying in combat, though it's possible. This is about how you evolve and how you shift, and the struggle between humanity and godhood, basically, and the back and forth it plays. That's the themes in this game, so they didn't really make it super gritty on the damage. That said, I highly endorse this book. I didn't really decide to delve into this book till a week ago, and I'm so happy I did. I have already ran a one-shot of this last Friday, and it was great. I'll admit, I didn't get everything right. It's the first time I've run an Apocalypse Engine game. And I'm pretty sure I miffed a couple rules and miffed how damage worked a little bit. I went and double-checked, and they said it's okay to do this, but it's not the standard. So the things I thought were kind of exceptions to the rules, but it still worked, and it ran great. And in that starter set, they have two pre-made cases, a starter case and a slightly more involved Halloween case. I ran the starter case. The whole adventure is written on like 3 pieces of paper, and it still took us 2 to 3 hours to run because of how involved we got and how much people wanted to go down stuff. So with that, I will catch you guys next time. Bye. If you like that video, check out another video over here. Whatever it is, it's probably pretty good. Don't forget to like, share so other people can find the channel, and subscribe right up there. YouTube now won't let me put a link to the Patreon, but there is a link down in the description below. So if you want to help support the channel, check that out, and I will catch you guys next time.